In the world of the ultra-wealthy, silence is the most expensive commodity. But sometimes, staying silent costs you your life. One Tuesday night at Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant, a young waitress named Elena Vance saw something she wasn't supposed to see. She had two choices: keep her head down and keep her job, or risk everything to save a man who didn't even know her name. She chose the risk. She slipped a note under a glass of whiskey that read, "Your fiancé set a trap. Leave now." That single piece of paper didn't just ruin a dinner, it dismantled an empire. This is the true story of how a waitress outsmarted a billionaire's conspiracy. The generic clatter of silverware against fine china was the only soundtrack Elena Vance knew on Tuesday nights. She worked at L'Opéra, a French fusion restaurant perched on the 60th floor of the Meridian skyscraper in downtown Chicago. It was the kind of place where a bottle of wine cost more than Elena's tuition for the entire semester at the State University. Elena was 22, an architecture student with eyes that noticed structural flaws, both in buildings and in people. She had learned early on that to survive in the service industry, specifically at this level of luxury, you had to be invisible. You were a pair of floating hands, refilling water glasses, a shadow clearing away crumbs. If a guest remembered your face, you had made a mistake. "Table 4 needs a decanter for the Chateau Margaux," the floor manager, Julian, hissed into her ear. Julian was a man who sweated anxiety. He was terrified of the clientele, and for good reason. "And fix your apron. Marcus Sterling is arriving in 10 minutes. If anything goes wrong, Elena, don't bother coming back for your shift tomorrow." Marcus Sterling. Even Eleanor, who spent her free time buried in textbooks rather than tabloids, knew the name. At 34, Sterling was the CEO of Sterling Dynamics, a tech conglomerate that practically ran the city's infrastructure. He was the poster child for new money. Brilliant, aggressive, and currently engaged to Vanessa Vanderberg. Vanessa was old money. The Vanderbergs had owned railroads before they owned politicians. The union of Sterling and Vanderberg was being hailed by the Financial Times as the merger of the century. But looking at the reserved table, the one with the best view of the skyline, Elena didn't feel the romance. She felt a chill. The elevator doors chimed, sliding open with a soft whoosh. The air in the restaurant seemed to change, the oxygen sucked out by the arrival of true power. Marcus Sterling walked in first. He looked exactly like his pictures. Sharp jawline, tired eyes, wearing a bespoke suit that cost more than a car. He wasn't smiling. He was checking his phone, his brow furrowed in a permanent knot of stress. Trailing behind him was Vanessa. She was stunning in a way that felt manufactured. Perfect blonde hair, a red dress that looked like a fresh wound, and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She gripped Marcus's arm, not with affection, but with possession. Like he was a prize horse, she was leading to the stable. "Right this way, Mr. Sterling," Julian said, practically bowing. "We have the corner table prepared, away from the prying eyes." "Just bring the whiskey," Marcus muttered, his voice deep and gravelly. "The 25-year Macallan." "Neat." "And champagne for me," Vanessa chirped, her voice high and sugary. "We're celebrating tonight." Eleanor stood by the service station, clutching a tray. She watched them sit. She watched Marcus rub his temples, clearly exhausted. She watched Vanessa check her reflection in a spoon, her eyes darting around the room, scanning for something. Or someone. It was a look Elena had seen before. It was the look of a student cheating on an exam, checking to see if the professor was watching. "Elena!" Julian snapped his fingers. "Water. Now." Elena moved. She glided across the floor, practicing the invisibility she had perfected. As she poured the sparkling water into Vanessa's crystal glass, she didn't look up. "You're so tense, darling," Vanessa was saying, her hand resting on Marcus's clenched fist. "Tonight is the final step. Once you sign the transfer regarding the subsidiary, my father can finally release the trust funds to back your Asian expansion. It's what you've wanted for 5 years." "I know," Marcus sighed, taking a heavy sip of water. The lawyers said the language in the contract was unusual, the morality clause specifically." Vanessa laughed. It was a sound like breaking glass. "Oh, Marcus, Daddy is just old-fashioned. He just wants to make sure his future son-in-law doesn't embarrass the family name. It's standard. Don't you trust me?" Elena finished pouring and stepped back. She saw Marcus look at Vanessa. There was love there, yes, but it was clouded by fatigue. "I trust you, Van," he said softly. "I'm just tired." "Then let's make this quick," Vanessa smiled. "Drink up." As Eleanor walked away, a strange feeling settled in her gut. It wasn't the conversation. Business deals happened here every night. It was the way Vanessa's eyes had flickered to the entrance of the restaurant when Marcus looked down. It was the way she checked her watch, not casually, but with precision. Something was wrong at table 4. 30 minutes later, the restaurant was humming. The lights were dimmed. Elena was tasked with restocking the luxury hand towels in the ladies' lounge. It was a sanctuary of marble and gold, usually empty this early in the service. Elena pushed the door open quietly. She was about to step toward the supply closet when she heard the voice. It was hushed, urgent, and coming from the furthest stall. "He's drinking it now. Yes, I made sure." It was Vanessa. Elena froze. The acoustics in the marble room amplified everything. She knew she should leave. If she were caught eavesdropping on a VIP, she would be blacklisted from every high-end venue in the city. But her feet wouldn't move. "No, listen to me, you idiot," Vanessa hissed. "The prenup is irrelevant if he violates the morality clause before the wedding. That's why the photographer needs to be here in 20 minutes, not 30. 20. Eleanor pressed herself against the cold tiled wall, holding her breath. "I spiked his second whiskey with the relaxant," Vanessa continued, her voice dropping to a sinister purr. "He's going to be groggy. When he stumbles out, you have the girl waiting in the lobby? Good. Rip the shirt. Make it look aggressive. Once those photos hit the internet, the board will invoke the clause. He loses the company, and I get the controlling stake as the aggrieved fiancé, holding the interim power of attorney." Elena's heart hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird. This wasn't just a breakup. This was a corporate assassination. They were going to drug Marcus Sterling, frame him for assault, and steal his life's work. "I love you too," Vanessa said, the sweetness returning to her voice, sickeningly fake. "We're going to be so rich, baby. Just make sure the camera captures his face clearly." The sound of a latch clicking open. Elena panicked. She couldn't be seen. She silently slipped into the utility closet, pulling the door shut just as Vanessa's heels clicked across the marble floor. Through the slats of the closet door, Elena watched Vanessa Vanderberg wash her hands. The woman looked at herself in the mirror and smiled. A cold, predatory baring of teeth. Then she applied a fresh coat of red lipstick, smoothed her dress, and exited. Elena sagged against the mops and buckets, trembling. What could she do? She was nobody, a waitress making $12 an hour plus tips. He was a billionaire. If she walked up to the table and said, "Sir, your fiancé is framing you," Vanessa would deny it. She would claim Elena was crazy or looking for a bribe. Julian would fire her on the spot. Security would drag her out. And Marcus? He was already drugged. He wouldn't believe her. Elena checked her watch. Vanessa had said the photographer would be there in 20 minutes. That was 10 minutes ago. She had 10 minutes to save a man's life. She exited the bathroom and walked back onto the floor. The restaurant felt different now. It felt like a crime scene. She looked at table 4. Marcus was looking pale. He was loosening his tie. He blinked rapidly, as if he was having trouble focusing. Vanessa was leaning in, stroking his arm, pouring him more wine. "You look warm, darling," Vanessa said, her voice carrying over the low hum of the room. "Maybe you should go downstairs and get some fresh air. The car is waiting." "Yeah," Marcus slurred slightly. "Just feel a bit dizzy." "Go ahead," Vanessa urged. "I'll settle the bill and meet you down there." It was happening. He was about to walk into the trap. Elena stood at the service station. Her notepad was in her apron pocket. Her pen felt heavy in her hand. She couldn't speak to him. Vanessa wouldn't let him out of her sight. She needed a way to get a message to him that Vanessa wouldn't see. She looked at the tray of drinks Julian was preparing for their table. A fresh round of water and a double espresso Marcus had ordered to try and wake up. "Table 4, Julian barked. "Take it. He looks like he's about to pass out. If he vomits on the carpet, you're cleaning it up." Elena took the tray. Her hands were shaking. She took a deep breath. She ripped a page from her order pad. She wrote 6 words. She folded the paper into a tiny square, smaller than a stamp. She walked toward the lion's den. The walk to table 4 felt like walking the length of a football field. Elena's mind was racing. What if he drops it? What if she sees it? What if he ignores it? She arrived at the table. "Your espresso, sir," Elena said. Her voice was steady, a mask of professional indifference. Marcus looked up. His eyes were glassy. The pupils were dilated. The drug was working fast. "Thanks," he mumbled. Vanessa was busy texting under the table. She barely glanced at Elena. "Just leave it." Elena placed the saucer down. As she did, she deliberately knocked over the salt shaker. It was a tiny clumsiness, uncharacteristic of her. "Oh, I am so sorry," Elena gasped. "Clumsy girl," Vanessa snapped, looking up with a sneer. "I'll fix it, I'm so sorry." Elena grabbed a cloth napkin to wipe the table. In the chaos of her hand movement, shielded by the white linen napkin in her right hand, her left hand slid the tiny folded note directly under the base of Marcus's espresso cup. She made eye contact with him. For a split second, she broke the rule of invisibility. She stared right into his dilated pupils with an intensity that screamed danger. "Please," she whispered, barely audible. "Careful with the cup, sir. It's hot." She emphasized the word careful. Marcus frowned. Through the fog in his brain, something registered. The waitress. Her eyes. She wasn't looking at the spill. She was looking at him. Elena finished wiping the imaginary mess and stepped back. "I'll bring fresh salt." She walked away, her heart pounding so hard she thought she might faint. She didn't retreat to the kitchen. She stood by the pillar, 5 tables away, and watched. Marcus stared at the espresso cup. He was groggy, but Marcus Sterling hadn't built a tech empire by being unobservant. He sensed the shift in the air. The waitress had been terrified. Why? His hand shook as he lifted the espresso cup. There it was, a tiny square of paper resting on the saucer, previously hidden by the cup. Vanessa was looking at her phone, smiling at a text message. She didn't see him pick it up. Marcus palmed the paper. He brought it to his lap, under the tablecloth. He unfolded it with one hand. He glanced down. "Your fiancée set a trap. Leave now." The words hit him harder than the caffeine. Trap. Fiancée. Leave. He looked at Vanessa. She was beautiful, elegant, and currently texting someone with a look of triumph he had never seen before. The morality clause, he thought. The rush to sign tonight. Suddenly, the dizziness didn't feel like fatigue anymore. It felt chemical. "Marcus," Vanessa asked, putting her phone down. "You haven't touched your coffee. You really should go downstairs. The driver, Tony, is waiting right out front." Marcus looked at the note in his hand, then crushed it into his fist. He looked at Vanessa. He saw the predator beneath the makeup. He had to test it. If the note was true, she would be desperate to separate him from the safety of the restaurant. "You know what?" Marcus said, his voice thickening, fighting the drug. "I don't think I can walk yet. I'm going to sit here for another 20 minutes, have some water." Vanessa's smile faltered, a crack in the porcelain mask. "Marcus, don't be silly. You look terrible. You need fresh air. Just go to the lobby." "No," Marcus said, louder this time. He grabbed the table edge. "I'm staying." Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "Marcus, you're making a scene. Just go." "Why are you so eager to get me out of here, Van?" he asked. Vanessa froze. At that moment, Marcus's phone buzzed. It wasn't a text. It was a security alert. But he couldn't focus on the screen. He needed to get out, but not through the lobby where the trap was. He looked around the room and locked eyes with Eleanor again. She was standing by the service door. She gave an almost imperceptible nod toward the kitchen, the back exit. Marcus stood up, swaying violently. "I'm going to the men's room," he announced. "I'll help you," Vanessa said, shooting up from her chair. "No!" Marcus roared. The restaurant went silent. He lowered his voice. "I can walk to the bathroom myself, Vanessa. Sit down." He turned and stumbled, not toward the restroom, but toward the service corridor where Eleanor was waiting. Vanessa watched him, confused. Then she grabbed her phone and typed furiously. "Target moving. He's going back of house. Intercept him." Eleanor saw Vanessa typing. She knew the game had changed. The trap wasn't just in the lobby anymore. It was coming for them. Elena pushed open the swinging kitchen doors. Marcus stumbled through behind her, nearly knocking over a tray of soufflés. "Hey!" a sous chef yelled. "No customers back here." "He's sick," Elena lied quickly. "I'm taking him to the manager's office." She grabbed Marcus's arm. He was heavy, his weight sagging. "Did you write it?" he rasped, his breath hot and smelling of the chemically tainted whiskey. "Yes," Elena whispered. "She's trying to trigger a morality clause. Photographers are in the lobby. Fake assault charges." Marcus let out a dark, dry laugh. "Of course. My stock. She wants the stock." "We can't go to the lobby," Elena said, guiding him past the sizzling stoves and shouting cooks. "They'll be waiting at the front and the main rear exit." "Where then?" Marcus asked, his vision tunneling. Elena looked at the freight elevator at the far end of the kitchen. It was used for garbage and produce deliveries. It opened into the alleyway 2 streets over, bypassing the main paparazzi swarm. "The trash lift," Elena said. "But you have to trust me." Marcus looked at the waitress. Her uniform was cheap polyester. Her hair was tied back in a messy bun, and she looked terrified. But she was the only person in the building who wasn't trying to sell him or destroy him. "Lead the way," Marcus said. The freight elevator descended with a mechanical groan that vibrated in Eleanor's teeth. It smelled of rotting citrus and stale beer, the scent of a restaurant's underbelly. Marcus Sterling was leaning heavily against the graffiti-covered metal wall, his breathing ragged. His bespoke Italian suit was now smeared with grease from the kitchen door frame. "Stay with me," Elena whispered, watching the floor numbers tick down. "We're almost at street level." "My phone," Marcus mumbled, fumbling for his pocket. I need to track the car." "No," Elena said, grabbing his hand. "If they set a trap, they are tracking you. Turn it off. Now." Marcus looked at her, his eyes fighting to focus. He obeyed, powering down the device just as the elevator shuddered to a halt at the ground floor. The doors opened onto a wet, narrow alleyway behind the Meridian skyscraper. The Chicago wind cut through the alley like a knife. Elena peeked out. The main street was clogged with traffic, but near the restaurant's front entrance, visible around the corner, flashbulbs were popping. The paparazzi were already there. Vanessa's timing was military-grade. "Black SUV," Marcus rasped, pointing a shaky finger toward the end of the alley. A black Cadillac Escalade was idling at the alley exit, its lights off. Vanessa's backup plan. "They're watching the exits," Elena realized. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She looked the other way. A delivery truck was backing in to unload produce. "Move," Elena ordered. She shoved the Billionaire behind a stack of blue recycling dumpsters just as the Escalade's window rolled down. A man with a thick neck and a Bluetooth earpiece scanned the alley. Elena held her breath. The rain began to fall, a cold drizzle that slicked the pavement. The delivery truck driver honked his horn, blocking the Escalade's view for a split second. "Now!" Elena pulled Marcus. They ran, not toward the main street, but deeper into the labyrinth of service alleys. Marcus stumbled, his expensive leather loafers slipping on the wet asphalt. He was a man who ran corporations, not from thugs in alleys. They emerged 3 blocks away, breathless and soaked. Elena hailed a yellow cab, practically throwing herself in front of it. "Where to?" the driver asked, eyeing Marcus's disheveled state in the rearview mirror. "He looks drunk, lady. $50 cleaning fee if he pukes." "He's fine," Elena lied. She looked at Marcus. He was fading fast. She couldn't take him to a hotel. He had no ID that wouldn't flag him, and she couldn't afford a room. She couldn't go to the police. Vanessa Vanderberg likely had the commissioner on speed dial. There was only one place. 1402 West Taylor Street, Elena said. Little Italy. The ride was 30 minutes of pure anxiety. Marcus slumped against the window, the drug finally winning the battle for his consciousness. Elena kept checking out the back window, paranoid that every pair of headlights belonged to Vanessa. They arrived at her building, a run-down walk-up above a 24-hour laundromat. The hallway smelled of detergent and old onions. Elena half-carried, half-dragged the 6'2" Billionaire up 3 flights of stairs. She unlocked her door, 3 deadbolts, a necessity in this neighborhood, and kicked it open. Her apartment was tiny. It was a studio with a pull-out futon, a desk covered in architectural models made of balsa wood, and a kitchenette that you could touch from the bed. It was humble, cluttered, and warm. She dumped Marcus onto the futon. He groaned, rolling onto his back. He looked ridiculously out of place. A man worth $4 billion, passed out on a $200 IKEA sofa. Elena locked the door. She stood there for a moment, shaking. She had just kidnapped one of the most powerful men in America. Or saved him. She wasn't sure which one the law would see. She approached him. His breathing was shallow. She loosened his tie and unbuttoned his collar. She pulled off his wet shoes. "Vanessa," he muttered in his sleep, his brow furrowing. "Don't sign." Elena grabbed a blanket and threw it over him. She pulled a chair against the door, wedging it under the handle. A poor man's security system. She sat at her desk, staring at the sleeping giant, and didn't sleep a wink. Sunlight hit the cracked window pane at 7:00 a.m. Marcus Sterling woke up with a headache that felt like a drill boring into his skull. He reached out, expecting the Egyptian cotton sheets of his penthouse. His hand hit coarse polyester. He shot up, gasping. The room spun. He wasn't in his penthouse. He was in a room the size of his walk-in closet. There were architectural sketches taped to the walls. The smell of cheap instant coffee filled the air. "Drink this," a voice said. Marcus flinched. He looked up to see the waitress, Eleanor, standing there, holding a chipped mug that said, "World's okayest architect." She was wearing oversized sweatpants and a t-shirt. Her hair was messy. She looked exhausted. "Where am I?" Marcus asked, his voice hoarse. "Who are you?" "I'm Elena, the waitress who stopped you from drinking poison," she said, shoving the mug into his hand. "You're in my apartment. You passed out. I didn't steal your wallet, by the way. It's on the table." Memory flooded back to Marcus. The dinner. The note. The escape through the kitchen. The alley. He took the coffee. Black. Strong. "Vanessa," he said, the name tasting like ash in his mouth. "I need to call my team. You need to see this first," Elena said. She pointed to a small television on her dresser. She turned up the volume. It was the local morning news. The banner at the bottom read, "Breaking news. Search for missing tech mogul." On the screen was Vanessa Vanderberg. She was standing outside the police station, wearing a modest cardigan, wiping away a tear. She looked devastated. It was an Oscar-worthy performance. "Marcus has been under immense pressure lately," Vanessa was telling the reporters. "He's been suffering from episodes, paranoid delusions. Last night at dinner he became aggressive and then ran off. We are just worried about his safety. We fear he may be a danger to himself." The camera cut to a legal expert. "If Mr. Sterling is incapacitated," the expert explained, "Ms. Vanderberg, as his fiancée and proxy, would likely be granted emergency power of attorney to manage the pending Sterling-Vanderberg merger, which must be signed by noon today." Marcus stared at the screen, his knuckles turning white as he gripped the mug. "She flipped the script," Marcus whispered. "She knew I escaped, so she's painting me as insane. If I don't show up to the board meeting at noon to sign that merger myself, she gets power of attorney by default because I'm missing and unstable. She signs the deal. She takes the company." He looked at the clock on Elena's microwave. 7:15 a.m. "I have 5 hours," Marcus said. He stood up, steadying himself against the wall. The drugs were mostly out of his system, leaving only rage. "I need a computer. Do you have a computer?" "Just my laptop for school," Elena said, gesturing to the desk. Marcus sat at the tiny desk. He began typing furiously. "I can't log into the corporate server. She'll have IT flagging my IP address. I need to contact the one person she hasn't bought." "Who?" "My grandmother," Marcus said grimly. "She founded the company with my grandfather. She holds the swing vote on the board. But she's in a nursing home in Connecticut, and she doesn't use email." "Call her." "Vanessa controls her phone lines. She isolates her." Marcus stopped typing. He looked at Elena. "I need proof. If I walk into that boardroom at noon, it's my word against hers. She has photos of me looking drunk. She has witness testimony from the staff she paid off. I need hard evidence that she planned this." Elena bit her lip. "The bathroom," she said softly. Marcus turned. "What?" "I heard her in the bathroom," Elena explained. "She was talking to someone on the phone. She admitted to the relaxant. She admitted to the trap. She said she loved the guy she was talking to." Marcus closed his eyes. The betrayal wasn't just financial, it was personal. "Hearsay," he said. "Your word against hers. We need more." "The restaurant has cameras," Elena said. "There's a camera in the hallway outside the restrooms. It has audio. It's a security feature because of the high-profile guests." "Julian manages the security system," Marcus said. "If he's working with her, he's already deleted it." The system backs up to a physical hard drive in the manager's office every morning at 8 a.m. before cloud syncing, Elena said. She knew the rhythm of the restaurant better than she knew her own coursework. If Julian hasn't wiped the physical drive yet, it's still there. Marcus looked at her. He assessed her. You know the layout. I do. I can't go back there, Marcus said. Everyone is looking for me. But you? I'm supposed to be on the breakfast shift in 30 minutes, Elena realized. If I don't show up, it looks suspicious. Julian doesn't know I warned you. He thinks I'm just the clumsy waitress. Marcus stood up. He walked over to her. The distance between their worlds, the billionaire and the waitress, vanished in the cramped room. Elena, he said, his voice intense. If you go back there, you're walking into a den of vipers. If they catch you snooping... I hate bullies, Elena said, her chin lifting. And I really need this job to pay for my final semester. But I think helping you is worth more than the tips. Marcus reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a sleek silver USB drive. This has a worm program. Plug it into the manager's computer. It will clone the drive in under 60 seconds. Can you do it? Elena took the drive. It felt cold in her hand. 60 seconds, I can do that. Be careful, Marcus said. If you get that footage, bring it to the Sterling Tower. The shareholder meeting is on the 40th floor. I'll meet you there. And if I don't make it, then I lose everything, Marcus said, and you probably go to jail. Great pep talk. Elena managed a weak smile. She grabbed her apron. Elena walked into L'Opera at 7:55 a.m. The restaurant was quiet, filled only with the smell of cleaning products and baking bread. But the tension was palpable. Julian was at the front desk, looking pale. He was on the phone, whispering violently. When he saw Elena, he slammed the phone down. "You're late, Vance!" he barked. "Sorry, the trains were delayed," Elena said, keeping her head down, acting the part of the submissive employee. "Just get to work, set up the patio, and stay out of the way. We have police coming in later to take statements about last night." Elena nodded and hurried to the back. Her heart was beating so hard she felt dizzy. She went to the locker room, dumped her bag, and put the silver USB drive in her apron pocket. She peeked out. Julian was distracted, arguing with the head chef. The manager's office was behind the wine cellar. It was a glass-walled box, but the blinds were usually drawn. Elena checked the hallway. Clear. She slipped past the wine racks. She reached the office door. Locked. "Damn it," she whispered. She looked around. The transom window above the door was open a crack for ventilation. She wasn't an acrobat, but she was desperate. She dragged a crate of Pinot Noir over. She climbed up. She managed to stick her arm through the transom and unlatch the door from the inside. She fell into the office, landing silently on the carpet. 8:05 a.m. The backup might have already started, or Julian might have wiped it. She scrambled to the computer. It was locked. Think, she whispered. Julian was lazy. He used the same passcode for the alarm system as he did for the computer. 1985, his birth year. She typed it in. Access granted. She scanned the files. Security, Cam's Yax Main hallway. There was a file dated yesterday. It was still there. Julian hadn't deleted it yet. He was probably waiting for Vanessa's tech guy to do it cleanly so it couldn't be recovered. She jammed the USB drive into the port. A black window popped up on the screen. A green progress bar appeared. Downloading 10%. Elena crouched under the desk, watching the screen. Outside the office, she heard footsteps. Heavy ones. "I don't care, Julian." It was Vanessa's voice. She was here. "I want the hard drives drilled, physically destroyed. My people will be here in 10 minutes. "I thought we were just wiping them," Julian whined. Marcus is missing. The police will want footage. If there is no drive, there is no footage. Just say the system malfunctioned." The footsteps stopped right outside the door. "Downloading 45%. Elena covered her mouth with her hand. She was trapped. If Vanessa walked in now, it was over. "Do you have the keys to the office?" Vanessa asked. I think I left them at the front desk," Julian stammered. "Go get them, you idiot." Julian's footsteps retreated. Vanessa remained. She was pacing right in front of the door. Elena could see her shadow through the frosted glass. "Downloading 80%. Come on, Elena prayed. Vanessa's phone rang. She answered it on speaker. "Did you find him?" "No," a male voice answered. "We checked his apartment, his usual hotels. Nothing. But we found something interesting. A taxi driver dropped a guy matching his description in Little Italy last night. With a girl." "A girl?" Vanessa's voice spiked. "The waitress, the clumsy one from last night. She was looking at him." Elena froze. They knew. "Downloading 100%. Complete." Elena yanked the drive out. She didn't have time to close the window. The doorknob turned. It was locked again. Elena had relocked it from the inside, out of habit. "Julian, hurry up!" Vanessa screamed, banging on the glass. Eleanor looked around. There was no other exit, except the air vent. It was small, dusty, and high up on the wall. She grabbed the rolling chair, climbed up, and used a letter opener from the desk to unscrew the vent cover. It came loose with a clang. "What was that?" Vanessa asked. Elena hauled herself up into the ductwork, just as Julian came running back. "I have the keys!" The key turned in the lock. The door swung open. Elena lay flat in the dark, dusty metal tunnel, clutching the USB drive to her chest. Through the grate, she looked down. Vanessa stormed into the room. She looked at the computer screen. "Why is the screen on?" Vanessa demanded. She leaned in. She saw the pop-up window. "Download complete." Vanessa's face went pale. She spun around, scanning the empty room. Her eyes went to the desk, then to the ceiling. She looked right at the vent. "He's not here," Julian said, oblivious. "Someone was here," Vanessa whispered, her eyes locking onto the slightly crooked vent cover. "And they have the footage." She pointed a manicured finger at the ceiling. "Seal the building. No one leaves. Check every employee. Find that waitress." Eleanor scrambled backward into the darkness of the vents, crawling on her elbows and knees. She had the evidence that could save a billionaire, but now she was a rat in a maze, and the cats were coming. The air duct was a claustrophobic nightmare. It smelled of grease and stale heat. Elena crawled, her knees scraping against the galvanized steel. Below her, through the vents, she could hear the chaos erupting in the restaurant. Walkie-talkies crackled. Tables were being overturned. Vanessa was screaming orders. "She's in the vents! Get a ladder! Block the exits!" Elena saw a shaft of light ahead. It was a vertical drop. She peered down. It led to the basement laundry facility, 3 floors down. It was a dizzying drop, but there was a massive canvas cart filled with dirty tablecloths directly underneath. She didn't hesitate. She couldn't. Elena pushed herself forward and fell. She tumbled through the darkness, hitting the soft, linen-filled cart with a muffled thump. Dust and lint exploded into the air. She lay there for a second, winded, her heart hammering like a piston. "Hey, who's there?" a voice shouted. Elena peered over the edge of the cart. A laundry worker, an older man with headphones around his neck, was staring at the vent. "Please," Elena whispered, climbing out, her face smudged with soot. "I'm in trouble. They are trying to hurt me." The worker looked at her. A young girl, terrified, covered in dust. He looked at the service elevator, where heavy footsteps were already thundering down the stairs. "Hide," he whispered, pointing to a row of empty metal carts lined up for the delivery truck. Elena dove into an empty canvas cart. The worker threw a pile of stained chef's coats over her, just as the door burst open. "Where is she?" It was the man with the thick neck from the alleyway, Vanessa's hired muscle. "Who?" the worker asked, feigning ignorance. "The girl. She came through the vent." "Nobody came down here, boss. Just rats." The thug kicked a bucket across the room. "Search the trucks." He ran past Elena's cart, heading for the loading dock. Elena lay perfectly still under the chef's coats, smelling the scent of garlic and sweat. She felt the cart jerk. The worker was pushing her. "Hold on," he muttered. He wheeled her right out onto the loading dock, past the distracted security guard who was arguing with the thug. He pushed the cart up the ramp of a waiting laundry truck. "Go," the worker whispered as he locked the truck's rear doors. The engine roared to life. Elena was in the dark, bouncing around in the back of a box truck. But she was moving. She was moving away from the trap. 10 minutes later, the truck stopped at a red light. Elena didn't wait. She unlatched the rear door from the inside, a safety release, and jumped out into traffic. She was on Michigan Avenue. It was raining. She was miles from the Sterling Tower, and it was 11:15 a.m. She checked her pocket. The USB drive was still there. She looked at her reflection in a shop window. She looked like a coal miner. No taxi would take her. No Uber would let her in. She started running. She ran past the high-end boutiques, past the tourists taking selfies at the Bean. Her lungs burned. Her legs felt like lead. But she kept picturing Marcus's face when he realized his fiancée was a monster. She kept thinking about the arrogance in Vanessa's voice. Just a waitress. She wasn't just a waitress. Today she was the courier of truth. The conference room on the 40th floor of the Sterling Tower was a fortress of glass and mahogany. The air conditioning was set to a chilling 68 degrees. 12 board members sat around the oval table. At the head sat an empty chair, Marcus's chair. Standing next to it was Vanessa Vanderberg. She was the picture of grace under pressure. She wore a modest navy suit, her hair pulled back. "Ladies and gentlemen," Vanessa said, her voice trembling with manufactured emotion, "it breaks my heart to do this. Marcus he is unwell. The pressure of this merger has triggered a severe manic episode. He is currently wandering the city, confused and potentially dangerous." She signaled to a lawyer, who projected a photo onto the wall. It was the photo taken last night outside the restaurant. It showed Marcus stumbling, looking disheveled, his eyes wild from the drugs, seemingly shouting at a valet. "As you can see," Vanessa continued, "he is in no state to lead. The banks are nervous. If we don't sign the merger papers by noon, the deal collapses, and the stock price will plummet. As his fiancée and proxy, I am prepared to sign on his behalf to save the company." The board members murmured. They looked at the clock. 11:50 a.m. "I move that we invoke the incapacity clause." One board member, a man named Henderson, who had always disliked Marcus, said. "Vanessa should sign." "Seconded," another voice said. "Wait." The voice came from the speakerphone in the center of the table. It was Marcus's grandmother, participating remotely from Connecticut. Her voice was frail but sharp. "We wait until noon. Not a minute sooner." "Gran," Vanessa said sweetly toward the phone. "We are just trying to protect Marcus's legacy." "We wait," the old woman insisted. 11:55 a.m. 11:58 a.m. Vanessa picked up the platinum fountain pen. "It's time," she said softly. "For the good of the company." She lowered the pen to the paper. Bam! The double doors of the boardroom flew open with a crash that shook the walls. Security guards tumbled backward. Marcus Sterling stood in the doorway. He was still wearing the dirty suit from the night before. He hadn't shaved. He looked like a wreck. But his eyes were clear. "Don't sign anything," Marcus growled, striding into the room. Vanessa gasped, dropping the pen. "Marcus! Oh, thank God you're safe." She rushed toward him, trying to hug him, trying to control the narrative. "You look terrible, darling. You need a doctor." Marcus sidestepped her. "I don't need a doctor, Vanessa. I need a projector." "He's hallucinating!" Vanessa shouted to the board. "Security! Remove him! He's a danger to himself." Two burly guards stepped forward. "I wouldn't do that," a female voice rang out. From behind Marcus, a small figure emerged. It was Eleanor. She was drenched, covered in soot, and breathing hard. She looked like she had crawled out of a chimney. She held up the silver USB drive like it was a holy relic. "Who is this?" Henderson demanded. "A homeless person?" "This," Marcus said, his voice ringing with authority, "is the woman who saved my life, and that drive contains the reason why I went crazy last night." "It's a fake!" Vanessa shrieked, her composure shattering instantly. "She's a stalker! She's working with him to sabotage the deal." "Plug it in," Marcus ordered the IT tech in the corner. The tech looked at Vanessa, then at Marcus. Marcus was the CEO. The tech obeyed. He plugged the drive in. The video file loaded. The room went silent as the audio from the Lopera hallway filled the boardroom. Vanessa's voice. "The prenup is irrelevant if he violates the morality clause." I spiked his second whiskey with the relaxant. "Once those photos hit the internet, he loses the company, and I get the controlling stake." The color drained from Vanessa's face. She looked like a ghost. Vanessa's voice. "I love you too. We're going to be so rich, baby." The recording ended. The silence in the room was heavier than lead. Every board member turned to look at Vanessa. It's AI," Vanessa stammered, backing away. "It's a deepfake. He made it." "The timestamp is embedded in the restaurant security code," Elena spoke up, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "And I have the original log files from the server. It's real." Marcus walked over to the table. He picked up the contract Vanessa was about to sign. He ripped it in half. "The merger is off," Marcus said. "And Henderson, call the police. I believe attempted corporate espionage and poisoning are felonies." Vanessa tried to run. She made a break for the door, shoving a chair aside, but the security guards, the ones she had called to remove Marcus, blocked her path. They weren't loyal to her. They were loyal to the paycheck, and the man signing the checks had just taken back his throne. As the police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer to the tower, Marcus turned to Elena. The adrenaline finally left her. She swayed. Marcus caught her before she hit the floor. 3 days after the boardroom showdown, the world had moved on, but Eleanor's life had ground to a halt. She sat on the edge of her futon in the cramped Little Italy apartment, staring at a letter in her hand. It wasn't a thank you note from a billionaire. It was an eviction notice. Even though she was the anonymous mystery witness mentioned in every newspaper, her reality was bleak. Julian, spiteful to the bitter end, had fired her via text message before the police even finished their investigation of the restaurant. Without that job, she couldn't make rent. Without rent, she had nowhere to go. She turned on the small TV. The news was playing a clip of Marcus Sterling leaving the courthouse. He looked formidable, a titan of industry restored to his throne. Reporters were shouting questions about Vanessa. "Ms. Vanderberg has been denied bail due to flight risk," a reporter announced. Sources say the audio recording provided by a secret whistleblower was the final nail in the coffin for the Vanderberg family legacy. Elena switched the TV off. She had saved him. She had saved his company, his reputation, and probably his life. But as she looked around her tiny room, she realized that while Marcus Sterling had got his life back, she had lost hers. She grabbed her sketchbook, the one filled with designs for sustainable skyscrapers, and shoved it into her backpack. She needed fresh air. Eleanor walked to Millennium Park. It was a cold, grey Chicago afternoon. She found a bench facing the Cloud Gate sculpture, the distorted reflection of the city staring back at her. She opened her sketchbook and started drawing, losing herself in the lines. It was the only place she felt in control. The structural integrity on that bridge design is impressive, a deep voice said from behind her. But you need more support on the cantilever. Elena froze. She knew that voice. She turned around. Marcus Sterling was standing there, but he wasn't surrounded by bodyguards or lawyers. He was alone, wearing a casual wool coat, holding 2 paper cups of coffee. "Marcus?" she breathed. "May I?" He gestured to the empty spot on the bench. Elena nodded, too stunned to speak. He sat down and handed her a coffee. It was warm in her freezing hands. "I went to your apartment," Marcus said, taking a sip. "The landlord let me up. He said you were moving out." "I'm in between opportunities," Elena lied, her pride flaring up. She didn't want his pity. "You were fired," Marcus corrected gently. "And your tuition is past due. I spoke to the dean of the architecture program this morning." Elena felt her face flush with embarrassment. "You checked up on me." "I checked on the person who saved my life," Marcus said, turning to look at her. His eyes were intense, devoid of the exhaustion she had seen that night in the restaurant. "Elena, do you know what happened to Vanessa?" "I heard she was denied bail," Elena said. "It's worse than that," Marcus said, a grim satisfaction in his voice. "The audio recording you pulled from the server didn't just implicate her, it implicated her father. They were laundering money through the construction contracts for the Asian expansion. Because of that USB drive, the FBI raided the Vanderberg estate this morning. The entire empire is gone." Elena gasped. "I just wanted to stop her from drugging you." "You did much more than that," Marcus said. "You cleaned house. You removed a rot that has been plaguing my company for years." He reached into his coat pocket. Eleanor expected a check, a reward, a payoff to say thanks so he could move on. Instead, he pulled out a thick, bound document. It was a set of blueprints. "I saw the sketches on your wall when I woke up in your apartment," Marcus said. "You have a unique style. It's not just about height. It's about light. It's about how people live inside the walls." He placed the blueprints on her lap. "This is the new Sterling Dynamics headquarters. We break ground in 6 months. The lead architect is brilliant, but he lacks humanity. He designs for robots, not people." Marcus paused, locking eyes with her. "I want you on the team. Not as an intern, not as an assistant, as a junior design associate." Elena looked down at the blueprints, then back at him. "Marcus, I haven't even graduated. I'm a waitress who got fired." "You are a student who outsmarted a corporate dynasty with a napkin and a laundry cart," Marcus smiled. "I don't care about the degree. I care about the instinct. But—" He pulled a smaller envelope from his pocket. "If the degree matters to you, this is a receipt. I paid your tuition for the final year, and I bought your building." Elena's jaw dropped. You bought my apartment building?" "I bought the block." Marcus shrugged, as if he had just bought a sandwich. "The landlord was a tyrant. I fired him. Your rent is now 0. Consider it a signing bonus." Tears pricked Elena's eyes. It wasn't the money. It was the fact that he had seen her. For years she had been invisible, a servant, a ghost in the background of rich people's lives. Marcus Sterling had not only seen her, but he had also studied her work, her life, and her struggles. "Why?" she whispered. "Because you were the only one who told me the truth when it cost you everything," Marcus said softly. He reached out and covered her hand with his. "I can buy buildings, Elena. I can buy silence. But I can't buy loyalty. And I certainly can't buy the kind of bravery it took to walk into that lion's den." He stood up, buttoning his coat against the wind. "The job offer is in the folder. The salary is substantial. Monday morning, 9:00 a.m. Don't be late." He started to walk away, then stopped and turned back. A playful glint appeared in his eye. "And Eleanor?" "Yes?" "Wear comfortable shoes. We have a lot of stairs to climb." Elena watched him walk away, blending into the city crowd. She looked down at the contract in her lap. Junior Design Associate. Starting salary, $120,000. She looked at the coffee cup he had given her. On the side, written in black marker, were 6 familiar words. "Your boss set a trap. Say yes." Elena laughed. It was a sound of pure, unadulterated relief. The waitress was gone. The architect had arrived. And that is the true story of how a single act of courage changed the skyline of Chicago forever. Elena Vance didn't just save a billionaire, she saved herself. Today, she is one of the lead architects at Sterling Dynamics, and rumor has it, she and Marcus are designing more than just buildings together. Vanessa Vanderberg, meanwhile, is serving 15 years in a federal prison, proving that no amount of money can buy you out of bad karma. It just goes to show, you never know who is watching. The person serving your coffee might just be the person who saves your life. If this story gave you chills, please smash that like button. Let's aim for 10,000 likes to show support for the Elenas of the world. Do you think Marcus went too far by buying her building, or was it the perfect thank you? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. We upload brand new dramas every Tuesday and Friday. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.